Hello, and welcome to the next video to help you with your English language GCSE. This video is looking at English language paper 2, focusing on reading. In order to get the most out of it, you'll need this source with you. Could you do your children's homework? It also comes with the source B, which are 2 Victorian letters. So, this video is looking at question 4. For this question, you need to refer to the whole of source A together with source B, the father's letter to a family friend. Compare how the two writers convey their different attitudes to parenting and education. In your answer, you should compare their different attitudes, compare the methods they use to convey their attitudes, and support your ideas and quotations from both texts. And this is for 16 marks, so it's quite a high tariff question. So let's break the question down. Comparison is obviously key to it. That's a significant part of the question, both in terms of the first sentence there and in terms of the bullet point coming later. And different attitudes is also key to it as well. Something to not miss though is that the second bullet point asks you to compare their methods. So this isn't just summarising content, it's looking at how they are presented. The question says compare how the two writers convey the attitudes. It doesn't say compare what the attitudes are. It asks you to look at how they are conveyed. Obviously you'll need quotations in order to be able to do this. And this is what they're looking for. Compare writers' ideas and perspectives and how they are conveyed. It's really important that you don't just summarise the two attitudes, you look at quotations, you analyse them, and you look at some of the methods that the writer is using to put these ideas and attitudes across. Okay, so how the writers work, looking at techniques. So we might think this as a sort of grid, really, comparing the two sources, what their ideas and attitudes are, what are their methods, and then analysing those methods to show that we've got a bit of depth to our answer. So for example, if you've read through source A, you'll know it's far more humorous. It sees the funny side in terms of homework and school. In terms of methods, the quotations used for this, there's a quotation saying that he remorselessly takes the mickey out of his dad. The dad says, "I do as I'm told." The boy, when he's playing on this computer, is too busy killing things. And the dad admits that he had a lot of C grades. He refers to them as "my grades lined up like a line of Pac-Men doing a conga." Now each of these quotations gives us a particular attitude. So the first one about taking the mickey shows it's quite a relaxed attitude. It's not offensive. He doesn't mind the disrespect of his son. Doing as he's told, the attitude there is that he's more like a child than a father or a teacher, and he seems to be quite fine with that. The busy killing things is mocking his son's hobbies, but not trying to stop him from that, seeing it as just something that's a fun thing that teenagers do. And the line of Pac-Men that are the C grades, he's ridiculing his own failures and obviously suggesting that he thinks his son is better. So each of those quotations has a particular attitude in it. It's not on the surface. You've got to dig deep and look for implications. You've got to think about what the inferences are for you. But that's what's getting you the marks. That's the test of your intelligence. So for source B, which is the Victorian text, things are far more serious. There are lots of formal verbs. He's induced, he requests, he's endeavouring. There are adverbs, so think of ly words, of secrecy. Things are done confidentially and privately. His son is referred to as one of the boys, which suggests that he's a little bit less intimate with him. So again, each of these brings a particular message with it. It implies the importance of education, of being polite and formal. That seems to be the attitude of the Victorian father. Secrecy suggests that the boy's attitude is he's working against the school, not with it. And the father seems to be on side with this too. They're almost enemies of the school. And the reference to his son as one of the boys suggests a little bit of distance. He's a bit distrustful of his son, Henry. Again, all of these things are beneath the surface, and you need to work quite hard to find them, to show that you have inference skills. So let's look at a way that you might write this down, an example answer. So, in blue, Jay Rayner tends to see the funny side of parenting and education in source A. So we've made a point, we're now going to have to back it up and look at the methods used by the writer. He tells us that children remorselessly take the mickey out of you. The adverb remorselessly used in a jokey manner to indicate that it's all in good humour. When he tells us that I do as I'm told, this implies he's happy to take the role of a learner with his children, admitting his own failings. This attitude can also be seen in his simile, my grades lined up like a line of Pac-Men doing a conga. This suggests he got C grades and is content for his high-achieving son to know this, as well as perhaps implying that he could have got higher grades if he had not wasted long nights of carefully planned idleness playing video games in his youth in the 1980s. He is able to mock his son's time wasting on video games, saying he's too busy killing things. However, he is not particularly critical of this, suggesting that he is relaxed about what his son does in his spare time. So we have attitudes all the way through, we have quotations, and you'll notice there are some methods. The adverb used, that's one of the methods. A simile used is one of the. So now we need to establish the contrast, because you were asked to compare them with the other text. So we'll begin with a nice clear sentence at the beginning of this little paragraph, which is telling us that things are different in the other text. This completely contrasts with William Heritage's attitudes in source B, where he takes a far more serious approach to parenting. So what will happen next, in the green, is the candidate going through evidence and looking at the different methods, analysing things to show how this attitude is put across. In his letter, the verbs show a formal approach, induced, request, endeavour, which reflect his polite approach, but also suggest he views education as no laughing matter. Adverbs of secrecy, such as confidentially, privately, imply that Heritage views a school as some kind of enemy, meaning he must behave stealthily in his dealings with them. When referring to his son's complaints, he says that generally boys will sometimes complain without cause. The way he uses the general noun boys at first, rather than mentioning his own boys' names, implies a rather strict, distant approach to parenting, which is different from Rayner's reference to Eddie all the way through. So you'll notice we have some methods, things like verbs, adverbs, the noun used, and at the end there it also compares back to the other text. So we don't just do one comparison, we keep going back, and there's even a quotation to show how things are specifically different. There's a different method. One talks about boys, the other one calls his son Eddie all the way through. So again, in blue, we set up our comparison. Another difference in attitude in parenting is in the amount of trust they show to their children. So let's back it up. Rayner trusts his son that the approach to a difficult question is to draw a sad face, which makes him sound a little childish. He's also happy to let his son return to his room where he kills things online while talking on Skype to his friend. Rayner does not challenge any of this, suggesting he trusts his son will complete his homework eventually. He even knocks on his bedroom door before entering, suggesting he respects Eddie's space and that he should have the privacy to use 21st century information technology as he wishes. Heritage is very different. This is the second source, source B. He says he will be guided by what the family friend advises rather than by Henry's complaining of the treatment he receives, suggesting his attitude is that children cannot fully be trusted. Heritage's issues are not so much with the brutal treatment as with the lowering of educational standards. He complains about several words wrong spelt as being his criticism of the system of education, not the unhappiness of the boys. Interestingly, Rayner does also care about standards, although he is keen to show a little solidarity with his son. His more relaxed attitude to his son's education is partly based upon his score. 80% is a low score for him. And that despite all the distractions of computer games, Eddie is still irritatingly good at his schoolwork. There you have it. That's how to do question number 4, comparing attitudes, but also comparing quotations and methods used to get those attitudes across. Hope you found this useful.